Oh?
Look, there are a lot of rare medical books up there that we use in pre-med. They're not only valuable, they're irreplaceable, and I'm not going to let anybody burn them.
You think you can stop them by yourself?
They got to come up this way. And they got to come up one at a time.
Maybe you can do it alone. What about the rest of the library?
That's not my responsibility.
Oh, and this is, huh?
Well, this is different.
In what way?
It makes a difference whose ox is gored.
What did you say?
I didn't say it. He did.
Who are you? You one of them out there?
Mister, that's a question I'm getting mighty tired of answering, if you don't mind. He's a distant relative of mine. Jonathan Smith, Professor Harden, History Department.
Oh, Jonathan, I beg your pardon.
Pardon me, Professor.
What was it you were saying about whose ox is being gored?
Well, it's an old saying. When trouble hits somebody else, we say it's too bad, but we bear up under it. But let the same thing happen to us. Well, that's a different story. We try to do something about it.
Your relative's right, you know, John.
Well, there's more to it than that. I mean, there's certain rights involved here I happen to believe in. Well, I may not agree with everything they say, but what's the clarion rest of it? I'll defend their right to say it. Well, that's what democracy's all about, isn't it? I mean, free speech, including the right of dissent, and human rights over property rights. All right?
Oh, boy.
If you ever heard such bunkum, read your Constitution.
There it is. You see, that's the irony of it, Jonathan. They always piously invoke the very Constitution they want to destroy.
And furthermore...
Wait just a minute, John. Look, if we're going to have any kind of a meaningful dialogue here, then I can't let you just spell out a mouthful like that and go away and leave it, okay?
Right on.
Are these rights you were talking about? Human rights over property rights. What human rights are violated by this library being here? And what possible human rights could be furthered by destroying it?
Well, it'll shake people up, call attention to other people's needs.
What people? What needs? You say pre-med needs? All right, well, pre-med only makes up one part of this university. What about the law students? What about the scientists, the engineers, the political economists? Hmm? I mean, they all have a need for this facility. The property of the building was built, the books carefully accumulated from the contributions of thousands of people who will never even see them. Ordinary people, older people mostly, who gave their money for what? For what purpose? So that you and other young people like you today, next year, years to come, can help to find a better education, to live a better life. And what makes you think you can disassociate your property rights from human rights anyway? You see, John, you don't have to own property to have property rights in it. Hmm? All right, you're studying now to be a doctor, right? That means you'll be interning at some hospital around, and there you'll be working with equipment costing millions of dollars, millions. I'm gonna have to mine a 2 million volt X-ray therapy machine costing, I don't know, $150,000. Now, wouldn't it be a serious infraction of both your property rights and your human rights if that wonderful machine were destroyed just to shake people up, wouldn't it? Maybe I ought to give you a closer to home, more practical example of what I mean. Take what happened right here in Clovis last summer. The riots, the burning, the looting. A lot of stores were destroyed there. Among them, a drugstore, a grocery store, and a 5 and 10 cent store. Now, those stores have not been rebuilt. Now, the senseless, irresponsible destruction of those properties was a far greater blow to the human rights of the people of that community.
Well, that was unfortunate, but you know what they say. You're gonna make an omelet, you gotta break a few eggs.
Oh, John.
Yeah, and I've noticed the ones who say it, it's not their eggs.
They're not talking about just breaking a few little eggs. They're talking about smashing human lives. And they call it the right of dissent.
That's not so serious. All kids get them sooner or later.
John Warren, you know Ruthie is only 14 months old. Poor little dear. I'm worried.
Well, if you're worried, why don't you call her up? You got her number in that little book of yours. No, it's just about 8 o'clock in San Francisco. They'll be up.
You know, I believe I will.
Go ahead, call her. You'll feel better.
Three, 1, 8, G, A, 5, 2, 3, 6, 8.
Are you sure it isn't too early out there?
Oh, no, it's 11 o'clock here. That means it's 8 o'clock out there.
Hello? Sally? Sally, this is Mother.
Simple, wasn't it? She just picked up her telephone and dialed her daughter in San Francisco, California. In a matter of seconds, she is talking with her. Simple, and yet you are seeing the results of many, many years of coordinated effort in research, engineering, and operating experience. It's hard for us to realize today that in the early 1880s, the telephone was considered a newfangled contraption. Boy operators manned the switchboards in those days, and it was an adventure to be able to talk with friends or relatives on the other side of town. The telephone at last was filling a deep human need, the need of people separated from one another to talk with each other. Soon, alert girl operators replaced the boys. New types of instruments were developed, and the telephone grew up with a growing America. The demand for telephone service snowballed. Indeed, the use of the telephone became so tremendous that by the 1920s, dial service was rapidly being introduced to help handle the increased volume of calls. As the calls increased, more operators were needed. More calls to handle meant more jobs to do and more people to fill those jobs. This has been the story all through the development of the telephone. For instance, in the days when we had little or no dial service, the Bell system had 270,000 employees. By the time 70% of the telephones were dialed, there were 600,000 employees, more than twice as many. But the remarkable use of the telephone was only part of the story of change in American life. As villages became towns, and towns became industrial cities, people's interests broadened. Where those early citizens were thrilled to telephone across town, people now wanted to call towns and cities across the nation. Finally, they wanted their voices to span the oceans. And they did. Truly, America had grown up. All of which brings us back to Englewood. From many of Englewood's telephones, you could already dial any one of more than 4 million other telephones in the surrounding territory. A fine example of modern telephone service, and therefore a fine proving ground for this new type of long-distance service. A proving ground to answer such questions as, will customers like the service? Do they find it easy to use? What improvements can be made? This first installation now enables telephone users to dial their own long-distance calls, as well as their local calls and calls to nearby communities. The equipment that makes this service
Every passing year will understand the challenge
and devote themselves to it even as you and I must. Interest cannot lag, efforts cannot cease. It will require the sternest kind of dedication, bred as it were into the American character. The training grounds in which this discipline will be planted and perfected are the institutions which have shaped our society, particularly the home, which has always been in our culture the nucleus of society itself. The home is the wellspring of the strongest qualities of citizenship, and it must remain so if we are to preserve the toughness of moral fiber, which is our strongest heritage.
A toughness of moral fiber, a belief in the right, as God gives us to see the right, as Lincoln put it in words which are carved into our national soul. These are the sinewy threads of our past. Keeping America strong, this is our challenge. Keeping the vision of liberty bright, keeping the threads of our past, the strands of moral toughness with which our history is bound. Moral toughness, the quality which made men work instead of weep on the hostile shores of New England, which bled mortally yet never died on 100 fields and oceans stretching out from Valley Forge, which moved strong men west, bringing with them first only their pride, then their railroads, which built cities and governments, and created wealth, and above all, made freedom the birthright of every man. That quality must still live within us, for without it, we are surely lost. And it will live, so long as we keep faith in our future and faith in our past. This is the challenge, as compelling, as severe, as crucial as Americans in any age have ever faced.
Well, why don't they call? They've had plenty of time to decide. Hello? Yes, this is John. Yes, I know why you're calling. They did? Oh, they did. No. I guess that's it then. Thanks anyway.
Sound reflector?
Sure, sound can be reflected almost like light. Now, what do you hear? Why, nothing, I guess.
All right. Now listen when I hold it so the reflector directs the sound.
Say, that's wonderful. It sounds as if it's right next to my ear.
Yes, sound reflects pretty much like light, or a rubber ball, or like a spring. Try this, Jimmy. Hook one end over the reflector. Now pull it out straight. That's it. Now, the spring is just like air in silence. No disturbances, no compressions. Strike one end of it, Jimmy.
Why, the compressions travel right along and bounce off the ends, back and forth.
Right. And when sound bounces back that way,
It's an echo.
in motion picture studios and radio stations, reflected sounds can cause trouble. They often hang draperies to kill some of the reverberation. A combination of hard and soft walls usually gives the best sound quality.
Sound quality? Now, what's that?
Well, quality. It's one of the three characteristics of sound. We've already mentioned the other two. Know what they are?
Well, let's see. Quality is one, you said something about frequency. Is that one?
That's almost it. But let's call it pitch, which depends mainly on frequency.
What about how loud it is?
Right. Loudness, pitch, and quality. I can show you all three.
Show me a sound?
Sure. By turning on this oscilloscope, it draws a picture of a sound. Be careful, Jimmy. It belongs to my radio club. Now watch. This is a picture of my voice as I talk, Jimmy.
Can I see my voice? Hey, there it is.
Now, about these characteristics of sound, we'll start with loudness. Make a sound on this ocarina, Jimmy. Now, louder.
The louder I blow, the taller the lines get.
That's right. Try it again. The height or amplitudes of the jumps changes according to the loudness or intensity of the sound. And another thing, watch how the sound falls off in intensity as I move away from the microphone. So you see, the loudness of any sound you hear varies with its intensity and its distance from you. And this is shown by the amplitude of the jumps. Shallow waves for a soft note and high waves for a loud note. Now, what do you suppose shows a pitch?
Maybe the number of waves, huh?
Almost right, Jimmy. Here, try running a scale on this and watch.
The number of waves does change with the pitch.
We call the number of waves each second frequency. And the length of the waves changes too. Short waves for a high note. Long waves for a low note. Now, you can hear two sounds of the same loudness and pitch, and still they sound different.
And that's where quality comes in?
Right. Try singing the 5 vowels on the same note.
A, E, I, O, U.
Now, compare my note to yours. Me.
Me. The waves seem to have different shapes.
Yes, the quality of the sound determines the shape of the wave. We can have two sounds of the same loudness and pitch, and still they're very different.
And that's that.
That's that, but it's not all by any means. There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject. But remember those three characteristics. And remember that all sound is vibration. It won't travel through a vacuum, but it does travel through air at the speed of about 1,100 feet a second. It travels even better through solids and through water. It travels in waves of compressions and expansions. With those points in mind, Jimmy, you can go on to a thorough study of the nature of sound.
That's for me. The nature of sound. That's why I saw the whistle before I heard it.
And with your watch, you could measure the distance between you and the whistle.
Because light travels so fast, you see the steam from the whistle almost instantly. But the sound traveling at 1,100 feet a second, now if it takes 5 seconds to reach you, you know that the sound is 5 times 1,100 feet, or more than a mile away.
Say, I can have a lot of fun measuring distance by sound.
And there's another trick you can do with a watch. Know what this is?
Sure, it's a light reflector.
It's also a sound reflector. Stand over there a minute, Jimmy.
You say it's a sound reflector?
Sure, sound can be reflected almost like light. Now, what do you hear?
Why, nothing, I guess.
All right. Now listen when I hold it so the reflector directs the sound.
Say, that's wonderful. It sounds as if it's right next to my ear.
Yes, sound reflects pretty much like light, or a rubber ball, or like a spring. Try this, Jimmy. Hook one end over the reflector. Now pull it out straight. That's it. Now, the spring is just like air in silence. No disturbances, no compressions. Strike one end of it, Jimmy.
Why, the compressions travel right along and bounce off the ends, back and forth.
Right. And when sound bounces back that way,
It's an echo.
in motion picture studios and radio stations, reflected sounds can cause trouble. They often hang draperies to kill some of the reverberation. A combination of hard and soft walls usually gives the best sound quality.
Sound quality? Now, what's that?
Well, quality. It's one of the 3 characteristics of sound. We've already mentioned the other 2. Know what they are?
Well, let's see. Quality is one, you said something about frequency. Is that one?
That's almost it. But let's call it pitch, which depends mainly on frequency.
What about how loud it is?
Right. Loudness, pitch, and quality. I can show you all 3.
Show me a sound?
Sure. By turning on this oscilloscope, it draws a picture of a sound. Be careful, Jimmy. It belongs to my radio club. Now watch. This is a picture of my voice as I talk, Jimmy.
Can I see my voice? Hey, there it is.
Now, about these characteristics of sound, we'll start with loudness. Make a sound on this ocarina, Jimmy. Now, louder.
The louder I blow, the taller the lines get.
That's right. Try it again. The height or amplitudes of the jumps changes according to the loudness or intensity of the sound. And another thing, watch how the sound falls off in intensity as I move away from the microphone. So you see, the loudness of any sound you hear varies with its intensity and its distance from you. And this is shown by the amplitude of the jumps. Shallow waves for a soft note and high waves for a loud note. Now, what do you suppose shows a pitch?
Maybe the number of waves, huh?
Almost right, Jimmy. Here, try running a scale on this and watch.
The number of waves does change with the pitch.
We call the number of waves each second frequency. And the length of the waves changes too. Short waves for a high note, long waves for a low note. Now, you can hear 2 sounds of the same loudness and pitch, and still they sound different.
And that's where quality comes in?
Right. Try singing the 5 vowels on the same note.
A, E, I, O, U.
Now, compare my note to yours. Me.
Me. The waves seem to have different shapes.
Yes, the quality of the sound determines the shape of the wave. We can have 2 sounds of the same loudness and pitch and...
Eve was a senior now, but although I am 3 years older than she is, I was just a lowly junior. I'd been out sick for a long time, and then I'd gone to junior college. This real campus seemed wonderful to me, and it was such fun being with Eve again. Naturally, she had to show me around and try to bring me up to date. I was amazed that she wasn't engaged by now. She was prettier than ever.
The number 1s are good. Let's have 2 of those, please. Make my number 3, if you don't mind.
I don't see how you can eat so much so early in the morning.
Are you on a diet, by any chance?
Of course I am, and you should be, too. Every morning I exercise for 10 minutes. You can start right in tomorrow.
Look, let's get this straight right now. You starve and you exercise. I eat and I watch you exercise.
But it's really as necessary for you as for everybody else.
Oh, cut it out.
I wondered why Eve and I seemed different now, and I ended up by deciding that she was still the same attractive Eve, full of life, but a little self-centered and a little apt to push people around. I liked her as much as ever, but I wasn't so easy to push anymore. I didn't feel I needed her advice. Still, I didn't really resent it. Maybe it was that course in family relations last spring. I learned that it's a good idea to try to change yourself first if there has to be a change. Changing somebody else is practically impossible. Yet I must admit I was curious to know all about Eve, and she was more than willing to talk.
Tell me about the boys you've met. You were saying something always happened.
Well, whenever I meet a boy, I start asking myself, is he right for me? And I don't know, Mary. I really don't know.
There was one you wrote about. His name was Alex, I think. Why did that fall through?
That's just it, Mary. I don't know. I can't for the life of me figure out what happened.
Take Alex, for instance, she said. I was down at Riley's one afternoon with the gang. I'd heard of him, but I'd never met him. He was a football star. I liked him, and he liked me right from the start. We found plenty to talk about, and neither one of us could figure out how we'd been on the campus for 2 years without ever meeting before. He was lots of fun. We decided to spend the afternoon together. It turned out that was just the first of a whole slew of afternoons. He was really sweet and, oh, well, just nice to be with. I guess I was a little proud, too, that a varsity football player was paying so much attention to little me. Well, as I said, Eve went on, we saw quite a bit of each other. But after a few months, his popularity got annoying. We were never really alone, and he never stopped worrying about his appearance. Did his collar look better buttoned or unbuttoned? Why, I could have been wearing a little number by Dior, and he wouldn't have noticed it. But if there was a new girl in the place, he was all eyes and smiles. It wouldn't make any difference what she looked like as long as she had some simpering crack to make about how well he had played on Saturday. I began to catch on that those forward passes could be used 2 ways. And finally, I had more than I could stand, and I told him exactly what I thought of him. He didn't take it as well as he took compliments. Said I didn't appreciate the importance of his career. Career, indeed. Who ever heard of a wolf with a career? And then there was Arthur. Arthur was different. Awfully nice, but awfully different. The gang called him the brain because he was such a whiz at math. And he was always ready to help a friend.
You're different from other girls.
That's what you think.
You're smarter. You're almost like a man.
Oh, no, I'm very much the woman.
I don't think of you that way at all.
I don't get you at all. I know, you think math is exciting, but you really ought to get yourself straightened out. You'd be surprised how many things are just...
Ribbon of mountainous road.